Let's roll to the Texas Bowl on Heartland College Sports. We've got Baylor and LSU in what I believe is one of the best non-college football playoff bowl games that's happening this season. I'm Pete Mundo. We're Heartland College Sports. We always appreciate you being here. If you're new, even if you're not, make sure you are subscribed to the channel. And if you're on YouTube, hit that thumbs up. Right there on the video, right below, helps us a lot. So this game is going to be outstanding. You've got a Baylor team that a lot of people have not realized how good they are playing in the second half of the season. They got off to a slow start. Dave Aranda's on the hot seat. And then what do? They rip off 6 straight wins to end the season, and in dominant fashion. Texas Tech by 24, Oklahoma State by 10, a field goal over rival TCU, West Virginia by 14, Houston by double digits, and Kansas to wrap up the season by 27 points. And that was a Kansas team that was on fire. They had won 3 straight against ranked opponents, something no unranked team had ever done. I mean, they were on fire, and Baylor just put them to bed. So this Baylor team, I know there's a lot of people watching and listening who are not necessarily Big 12 fans for these specific shows because their previews will give you a prediction as well for the game. So a lot of people watching or listening are either SEC fans, they want a different perspective, or they're gamblers. They're casual fans, which is totally cool. I'm glad you guys are here. I just want to make sure you come back. Bryson Washington is a name that if you don't know it, you should know it. This guy down the home stretch of the season was arguably one of the best running backs, not just in the Big 12, but the country. That's how good Bryson Washington was down the stretch of the season. A freshman for the Baylor Bears from Franklin, Texas. Look at this guy in the month of November. TCU, 196 yards, 4 rushing touchdowns. West Virginia, 123 yards, 3 rushing touchdowns. Houston, 113 yards. Kansas, 192 yards, 2 touchdowns. Average yards per rush in those games, 7.5, 6.8, 4.0, 6.9. Dude was an absolute beast. He is going up against an LSU defense that did not stop the run well all season. They were at the bottom of the SEC. 13th in the SEC in rushing yards allowed per game at 147. That is awful. That is not the LSU that you think of when you historically think of LSU football. And now you've got to play a guy and a running game in the Big 12 with the Baylor Bears. That was one of the best in the conference the second half of the season. That's how good they were, and that's how good Bryson Washington was. And I think he is licking his chops at the idea of going up against this rush defense, to be totally honest, and he should be because of how well he played during the second half of the season. But if LSU is going to win the game, it's not going to be because of what the defense does do or doesn't do. It's going to be because you've got Garrett Nussmeier, who is going to sling it all over the field. We know that LSU has a tremendous amount of talent. Now, a lot of that talent on offense is not going to be playing. They're expected to be down 2-3 starters on the offensive line, guys just opting out of the game, and that's fine. We see it all the time. You know that there is a tremendous amount of talent that is waiting in the wings at LSU. There always is, right? So now you got to look at it and you got to say to yourself, okay, if Nussmeier doesn't have some of his top guys, if he doesn't have much of his offensive line, can he still put up points and win the game? And I do believe he can. I mean, Baylor's pass defense was not great this season by any stretch of the imagination. Just the defense in general for Baylor wasn't great. They were a much better offensive team than they were a defensive team, which is interesting because head coach Dave Aranda saved his job this year largely because of what his offense did, not because of what his defense did. And he was coaching the defense. He was calling the plays. Now, they've got talent on that side of the ball, but in terms of were they one of the best defenses in the Big 12? Not even close. Against the run, they ranked 11th against the run when it came to average rushing yards per game. So they weren't good at that. And then when it came to passing, middle of the pack, 10th, 11th, somewhere in there. So they weren't great at all. They were middle of the pack in getting to the quarterback as well. So all those things stack up, and you say, this has shootout potential. Because Baylor's got the offensive firepower, Bryson Washington, who we've talked about. But, I mean, it's not just him. You've got Sawyer Robertson, another guy who's coming back next year, a quarterback, who had himself a very big second half and really came on strong with confidence and, dual threat ability when he needed to have it. He's a really nice player as well. And it's a guy who, once again, the average college football fan probably doesn't know, but if Baylor has the kind of season next year like they could end up having, he will be much more of a household name than he is today. But that's how this game ends up going if LSU and Brian Kelly have their way. High scoring, back and forth. We're playing this game into the mid-30s, high 30s, low 40s kind of a situation, and you've got a shootout written all over it. And I think Brian Kelly would just be fine with that. Right? I think he's totally cool with playing a game like that. But what will it come down to? Baylor is going to be better in the trenches. Baylor is expected to have its entire offensive line for the game. We know the Tigers aren't going to have their entire O-line. And on top of that, LSU was very inconsistent running the football. They were barely inside the top 100 in rushing success rate. And Baylor, when it comes to rushing success rate, which is different. It's one of those advanced analytic deals. Baylor was top 10 in that category. So LSU could very well end up becoming one-dimensional. And that is going to be problematic for this LSU team. And that's where I think Nussmeier is going to have a big day. It's just not going to be enough. And you're going to end up with Baylor winning this game. Something like, I'm going to say 38-31 over the LSU Tigers. That means they'll cover the 4-point spread. Depending on where you see it, it's 3.5, it's 4, it's maybe 4.5 points. I like Baylor to win. I like them to cover. I think this team is going to get a lot of attention in the offseason after how they play this game. And on top of that, they'll be a team that gets talked about to win the Big 12 next year. That's what this game will springboard them into in the offseason. That's just kind of, what I project in this one. And then, of course, SEC fanboys everywhere will be like, oh, a bunch of opt-outs. That's how it always goes. And that's fine. That's totally fine. I mean, I think about a couple of years ago when they played K-State in this game, and K-State won the game by 3 scores. Same thing, a lot of opt-outs for LSU, but it proved to be a good omen the next year for K-State, who ended up winning the Big 12 championship the year after they won the Texas Bowl against LSU. Remember, that was the year that K-State beat an undefeated TCU in the conference championship game. But TCU still made the college football playoff because that was their first and only loss of the season to that point. So we'll see. We'll see how it plays out, but that's what I've got. Give me Baylor over LSU 38-31 in the Texas Bowl coming up on Tuesday night, New Year's Eve. Going to be a good one in Houston, Texas. I'm Pete Mundo. We're Heartland College Sports. Thank you for being here. Make sure you are subscribed to the channel. We appreciate you guys, and we will talk to you soon.